Deion Sanders has changed his recruiting strategy, but don't take it from me. Take it from one of our brightest recruiting minds.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? I'm Kevin Borba. Joining me today is the host of the Locked On Portal podcast, the Locked On Seminoles Florida State podcast, Brian Smith. He covers a little bit of everything, and he's our recruiting insider over here at Locked On. We're going to talk about Colorado's next recruiting targets because they've been on a little bit of a run. Don't know if you've heard. They landed 6 recruits in the past 6 days, and we're going to talk about who could be the next star for the Buffs. But first, Brian, we have to talk about how Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, has changed pretty much everything he does about recruiting. He cleaned house on his recruiting staff, and we're seeing his efforts pay off early.
You mentioned they were on a run. This is how mathematically hilarious it is. In a week, they gain commitments from roughly the number of players they might sign in a year sometimes.
Yeah.
They got 6 guys. I mean, that isn't a change. That is blow it up and start over. They finally taken the advice of most people and went with the prep ranks first. Take the Indiana stuff aside. They're the one portal team that it's working. I don't think you can use them for any measuring stick. They're an anomaly. The teams that win, think about the following: Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Miami. What are they all doing? Heavy involved in the high school recruiting game. Say what you want, but I look at that as a pretty good barometer. And now Colorado's following that. And the list I got here, I got some notes on some of the kids. These are players that SEC and Big Ten schools wanted.
Yeah.
So, it's totally different.
They made a splash, and I want to give credit to Rashad Rich, who he's joined the staff. And, I mean, he's – as the director of recruiting, he has already landed – because at 24/7 Sports, they give you, like, the primary and secondary recruiters for each guy. He's landed Jaiden Kelly-Murray, who we'll talk about in a little bit. He committed yesterday, the 4-star wide receiver out of South Carolina. Gabe Jenkins, the 4-star safety. And then he also did a little JUCO work and landed Malachi Brown, who is – one of the top uncommitted JUCO players in the country who will make an impact for Colorado immediately this next year. So shout out to Rashad Rich, shout out to Darius Darden-Box. Like, they are putting in the work. And I think the effort level is something that excites me because I've always told you and a lot of people who come on my show, I'm like, if Coach Prime wanted to, he could put together a top 15 recruiting class. And I think a lot of people scoffed at the idea, right? Because it's like, okay, how can he just throw it together? And it's like his brand, the recognition that Colorado gets is second to none in college football, right? They've played every game on national television, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but not even some of the biggest programs in the SEC are playing every game on national television, right? Texas is the occasional SEC network, right? Some of these big programs are not televised weekly. And so Colorado has a lot to offer. They just weren't really focused on recruiting the high school ranks as much. And so, Brian, I pose this question to you. With an invested Coach Prime when it comes to high school recruiting, can Colorado sort of ascend to being one of the better teams in the Big 12 and maybe college football for the next few years?
If they do it year in, year out, yes. If you sign 20-plus high school kids with their recruiting network, what did you just mention? Junior college kid, South Carolina kid. I'm looking at the list. There's a Tennessee player, Pennsylvania player, Alabama player, Houston. They can absolutely be that. Now it's just how fast can it get there? Because I think the high school kids are still the bread and butter to make this work, and how do they blend it? But this year we'll see. But I think in 2027, with this group coming in, if you have another good portal class, they could be a team that goes to a bowl and makes some noise in the Big 12.
Yeah, I want to get your portal perspective because you do a whole show dedicated to the portal, NIL, and all that. And I think, and I want people to know, like, just because we are high on Deion Sanders recruiting doesn't mean that we are expecting him to abandon the portal altogether. So how can the portal complement a high school class in a perfect world?
Well, you hope that you don't have a ton of holes. Those teams I mentioned a few minutes ago with the high school, they don't take as many portal guys as a rule. Why? They recruit so well, they just got to plug a few holes instead of like, okay, we need 4 offensive linemen. Like, I cover Florida State. That is not a good method. Ask any Florida State fan. They took 5 linemen last year and like 5 this year. It's like, come on, this is not how you do it. Especially in the trenches, O-line, it's the hardest spot. If you do not recruit offensive linemen out of the high school ranks, you're in trouble. Because the good ones, minus Jordan Seaton, ironically, don't really get in the portal very often. So you have to be able to do that. So you can go get 10 kids to 15 kids from the portal. Guys turn pro, guys get hurt, whatever. That's fine. You can also spend less money. Portal guys, especially like trench players, holy cow, you will overpay.
Yeah. I mean, Jordan Steen got $4 million. Like, and I'm not saying that's an overpay, but that's a lot of money for a position that's not like a sexy position, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, a left tackle is the most important position to recruit at the high school level because those kids don't. Jordan was the only one got in the portal that was like coveted.
Yeah.
So he had carte blanche. I get it, but still, that's crazy numbers.
Yeah, and I think with like the perfect complementary class is, and you kind of already said this, but I'm just going to reiterate it, is sort of fixing your problems, not just being the answers, the problem. Like Colorado has had to bring in 50 plus portal guys per year. And the problem with portal guys, Brian, is you mentioned those programs, and those are just sort of like the standard of college football right now. The Georgias, the Ohio States, Texases of the world. They bring in the guys who can plug and play. And it's like, okay, we have our culture still in place. Like those guys just have to fill a need. Whereas Colorado, it's like, okay, we have to integrate 50 new players. We have to cultivate our culture, and we have a lot of moving pieces with the coaching staff. And that gets difficult each and every year because you don't have a lot of holdovers, right? When Colorado had their most success, it was no shock that Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter were holdovers from the previous year, and they were the best players roughly in college football, and they set the standard. Well, if you don't have great players, you have a lot of me guys who are like, you know what, I'm here to boost my draft stock, or I'm here to cash I mean, you may know this name because he's from your neck of the woods, Jaheim Otis, right? Mississippi guy who didn't work out for Colorado, and they spent a lot of money on him. Like, you just have a lot of those guys where it's missed investments because you have so many holes to fill. You start having to go, well, he didn't have rave reviews from his last coach, but we think we could fix him. And like, the more you try to fix people, it's like relationships. You can never fix the girl. You can never fix the boy. Like, you can never fix the person, right? You have to take them as they are. And so Colorado's had to experience a lot of that, where it's like, hey, we think we could fix this guy. And it's been difficult. And so I commend, Coach Prime for changing his philosophy, because I do think he went portal heavy immediately. I mean, it worked at Jackson State. They basically ran that level of football, but it hasn't worked to the same degree at Colorado. And I think it was almost his identity to be the portal. And I like that he's willing to make an adjustment.
I think that they've done the right things so far with that. Like when they were at Jackson, that's a whole nother animal with that. And they had to do what they had to. So now I think they're starting to realize the error of their ways. This run, looking at my list over here, these kids are going to eliminate having to plug a gazillion of different holes. If they can do this 2 years in a row, that 50 to 55 number you were talking about will be more like 15 to 20. And if you can do it over a 3-year span, it'll be 10 to 15. Yeah.
Great number. You get bigger. You probably get better portal players because it's like, hey, we have say 5 million designated. Yeah.
Go after the key guys.
Exactly. And Colorado can get some big names, right? They got Young LaFau from Texas. They got DeAndre Moore from Texas. They got a lot of huge names that a lot of people wanted. And so imagine having more money where you don't have to spend on like those lower tier transfers. Before we started recording this, Brian messaged me and said, I'm really excited about these players that you guys got. Let's find out who he's most excited about. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing. The one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is the job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And the listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. If you never miss an episode of Locked On Buffs or one of Brian's shows, you should go to lockedonbuffs.supercast.com or click the link below to find his shows respectively, and you get our episodes ad-free. You also get access to a Discord where we give you a little bit of intel. We give you some nuggets of what we're hearing before we record our shows. I let you guys know who's coming on my show. Before Brendan Marion came on, I was like, hey, Brendan Marion's coming on the show. What do you want me to talk to him about? I let you guys ask questions that will be featured on the show. It's pretty fun. We do like a hot take Friday kind of thing, Brian. So people, they fire off some scorchers and they're featured on the show. So again, go to lockedonbuffs.supercast.com or click the link below to find Brian's shows as well. Brian, you told me, and it's very rare that we've had these discussions because there hasn't been a lot of Colorado recruiting success. We were kind of joking off here that the biggest recruiting win since you had like been our recruiting guy was Julian Lewis. And then after that, we kind of paused and we were like, yeah, I think it was Julian Lewis because there hasn't been a ton of recruiting hoopla around Colorado, but they put together a really nice class thus far. They're at 9 commits. By the way, it took them until mid-July almost last year to get 9. So they're already ahead of schedule. Walk me through someone who excites you and you think could be a star for the Buffs.
Well, it depends on which position, but the first guy that I want to speak is Gabe Jenkins. This is a very unique scenario. It depends on who you ask, what position he will play at the collegiate level. But for full autonomy, he plays at Amani Christian in Pittsburgh, and he is the quote-unquote jack of all trades quarterback, running, throwing, making people look dumb. We're doing both. And he's just an athlete, whether he's returning a kick, whether he's making a guy look stupid in space. Phenomenal athlete. But he's listed as a safety. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's no film of him playing safety. How am I supposed to completely grade it? I just know he's a heck of a football player. Deion obviously understands talent based on his own ability, but I don't know where they're going to play him. I just know they're going to find a hole for him at some spot. I would try him at receiver because the film is so ridiculous. Now, they have a kid. I know he didn't commit recently, but Andre Adams is a kid that got committed, kid from Antioch, Tennessee, very similar to Julian Lewis in style and all that. So quarterback should be good anyway. Jenkins is actually a decent quarterback too. If you need somebody, I wouldn't be surprised they do this somewhere down the road, get into the red zone or short yardage. I don't care if he does play safety. If you see him in the backfield, don't be surprised. Okay. Like as a one-trick pony, some guys just have that ability to get yardage. They run the old wing. It's the same stuff they did with Tebow. They did with all kinds of guys that are just great quarterback. He's like that. Now, if you want somebody else that's explosive, I know him because he was on the 7-on-7 team I work with in Coastline Stars. Jaiden Kelly-Murray is an athlete in space, and the offense they run is just right up his alley. Pure slot. He is a human joystick. He's got all the offers and all that. I think that he has a chance to play right away. That's the easy one because this is what I am. He's just the polar opposite of the circumstance. Nothing against Gabe. He has to play quarterback at his school. They need him to. Murray's a wide receiver that's going to be in the slot, and on 3rd and 4, good luck. So those are the two I think they're the easiest. There's some others, but those two guys I'm very high on.
Okay. The thing about Gabe Jenkins too that excites me is if there's any school out there in college football that may be willing to try the two-way thing where it's like, yeah, you're going to be our starting safety, but when we get into some red zone situations or whatever, I think Colorado would try it. They played Travis Hunter 1,000 snaps in a season, right? Like he played both ways. So I wouldn't be shocked if they try that. They've also, I'm sure you remember the name Boo Carter, went to Tennessee, has now transferred to Colorado. His bread and butter was safety at Tennessee. He was all SEC safety, so it makes sense. Colorado's moving him all over, right? They're going to play him at nickel. They're going to play him outside. They're going to play him at safety. He might return punts. He might return kicks. And so if there's a single school in college football that's not afraid to take advantage of how versatile a player is, it would be Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. So that's an exciting fit there. You mentioned Jaiden Kelly-Murray, who they just landed yesterday. Really big win. They flipped from South Carolina and Colorado, and you kind of touched on this earlier, and I'll quantify it. They've landed a very diverse class. They have 2 from Tennessee, 1 from Alabama, 1 from Florida, 1 from Georgia, 1 from Pennsylvania, now 1 from South Carolina, Texas, and Utah. And so they're going all over the map, and it's really exciting to see. But there's one guy, the one guy out of Texas that you said you were excited about, and it excited me too because you look at him and you go, okay, 6'1" corner, and this being Prince Washington out of Houston, Texas, 6'1" corner, some pretty impressive film. And I mean, 25 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 10 pass breakups this past year, but he's not ranked. So walk me through what Colorado's getting and maybe a hidden gem right there.
It's amazing that a kid from Houston Lamar is not on the radar. That's a program that's been good for 40 years. But anyway, to make a long story short, he has length. He's very aggressive, very physical. His film against some kids that were ranked and went on to play that were a year older than him was good. And above all else, he can turn his hips and run at over 6 feet. That just never goes out of style.
Yeah.
Those are the kids that you look for at LSU or anywhere else. But I look at his list. He's obviously committed to the Buffs. He'll take a visit. Houston in North Texas, according to 24/7 Sports, or his other visits. I'm like, okay, I don't understand it. So I think he's a kid that can play early. Like I think he's one of the most underrated recruits in the country, if not the most underrated. I am shocked. So Deion obviously knows corners. I'm not going to argue with him anyway, but this was a kid after 5 clips. I'm like, he could play free safety. He could play boundary. He could play field. I don't really care. This is a guy that he's going to end up ranked at the end of the year. He'll be at least a high 3-star. I guarantee it. So I would take this kid if I was at Texas A&M. So I think Colorado got a nice deal there.
And it's funny you say that because Colorado, him and Will Rasmussen, who is the 3-star corner out of Wtih, both very underrated recruits. And you look at their offer list, and it's not very big. I think Will has, 8 or 9 offers, and Prince had around 10 or 11. And I think Houston was sort of the headliner until Colorado got into the mix. And you look at some of the offers that offered Will, and it was like Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Utah, and like Colorado's getting in on these guys early. They're evaluating these guys, and I think it's working out in their favor. Another player that I wanted to ask you about, just because he's from your neck of the woods-ish, is Barack Willis, the edge rusher. He was at one point the first Alabama commit for Kalen DeBoer, and then from my understanding, they kind of wanted him to move inside, and he's like, no, I want to rush the passer. So walk me through what Colorado's getting there, because, I mean, you know what else doesn't go out of style? Rushing the passer.
Absolutely. Every NFL draft, there's a top 5 pick that's a D lineman for a reason. Got to disrupt the QB. Bayrock's been on the scene for a long time. We've all known about him living in the state of Alabama. He's a kid that is really put together. He looks like a heavyweight wrestler. He's just that guy, but he also has twitch. I think he can be what I call a 5 tech. It's still just in the basic 4-3, the strong side end. I think that's what he will grow into, be 265, something like that in a traditional 4-3 kind of defense, or 4-2-5. That's where I see him. Now, could he put on enough weight to play inside Alabama? Maybe, but you'd really be playing a speed package, which, I mean, that's okay. That's like what Miami and Florida State did in the 80s and 90s. Guys a little undersized and they just won with speed. But most likely, I think he's a guy that will play inside only on passing downs occasionally, but be a strong side end. And that twitch is there, 6'2.5", 240, something like that now, give or take. And he's been recruited since he was a freshman in high school. So it's not a newsflash, but getting him away from Bama and Auburn and Tennessee and Florida State and those schools, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he has like 30 sacks the kid is just a monster. And I think Colorado, I mean, when they had success in 24, they led the Big 12 in sacks, and they had like 30 plus, right? They didn't have any sacks last year. They had 13 as a team, one of the worst in the Big 12, and they won less games. So wouldn't you know it? Rushing the passer matters. And so really excited to see this class come together. I don't think we're done talking to each other, Brian. Like I think there's going to be some more smoke coming in the direction of Colorado and very soon. And I'm excited to get your thoughts on some of the guys that they continue to land. But there's some names that have been linked to the program very recently, and it's pretty exciting. I want to run them by you, and we'll see what you have to say about them. Locked On Buffs and the Locked On Portal Show and Locked On Seminoles. We're all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out on a moment of any of our coverages, because we do this every day. We want to make sure you guys have the best coverage possible, and so we do just that. Brian, Colorado's been active, and they have some more names coming down the pipeline. The one that's really interesting to me is 3-star running back Kylan Bobo, 3-star recruit. I think he's underrated. 1,700 yards rushing, 28 touchdowns, 8 games of 100 yards rushing or more this past season. Just announced his Final Four of Arkansas, Minnesota, Memphis, and Colorado, of course. one, do you like Colorado's chances? And two, why is he being overlooked, and can this work out in Colorado's favor?
It's very ironic because he's from Tupelo, Mississippi, and as a program in that state, that's a top 3 or 4 program in the state. Mm-hmm. Everybody recruits it that recruits the Delta. So why he's not ranked a little higher, I don't know. He had 1,700 yards, got the size. He's roughly 200 pounds. So I don't know what the deal is there. But he had an offer, at least early on, from Ole Miss. Maybe it's not applicable now. I don't know. But again, that's a good football player, and that's a tremendous high school football program. So looking at the list, like, I'm just going to say it, you can't lose recruits to Arkansas. They are worse than Colorado. They are terrible. So you have to find a way to get kids like this. No. If he's going to take his OV and they're serious about him, you can't lose to the Razorbacks. I'm just Memphis, programs like, I'm not seeing it. So Memphis does have some money, though, out of the G6 programs, because FedEx is very involved in Memphis. That's their headquarters. That's the one that's the wild card, because he's only about 3 hours from Memphis.
Okay. Geography lesson too. I didn't even realize that. I mean, I should have known that, because I did go to Memphis one time, and there was a point where you could like drive to this corner and be in I think it was 3 states at once. And I guess Mississippi was one of them. So a little geography lesson over here on Locked On Buffs too. You always learn something, whether it's football or geography. We got you covered. Another name that's really interesting to me, and I think you're going to see Colorado, and this is a trend projection. With Brendan Marion, obviously there's a lot more running back usage. Colorado's been one of the worst rushing offenses in college football for the past 3 years. But the go-go offense, they tote the rock a lot. Sac State had a historic run game. At UNLV, they were run the ball quite effectively. So we're seeing Colorado linked to a lot more running back kind of weapons. And out of Valdosta, Georgia, Marquis Fennell, apologies if I say that incorrectly, 1,400 yards rushing, almost 1,500, 23 touchdowns. And then he also had 764 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns through the air. This is a freak athlete. I think another guy that's kind of being overlooked. What do you like about him and Colorado's chances there?
His vision, hitting the hole, and he's got power, good balance after contact. Yeah. He's got offers from schools all over the place. I cover Florida State. That's one of the programs that's been after him. And for those that don't know, Valdosta is like nationally, historically, one of those programs that everybody knows that follows high school football. Mm-hmm. It's Valdosta is called Title Town by ESPN. Like 10 years they did a thing. Like it's stuck as all the programs, baseball, football, like all the schools around there just do well. It means a lot. He's a kid that's going to come in mentally ready wherever he goes, because there's a lot of pressure to play at Valdosta. So they're in Lowndes County. That's their school right across the street, basically. They're always in state championship contention for all kinds of stuff. I think that matters. And I don't know where Colorado stands with that, because, again, his list is long. I mean, South Carolina, Florida State, Florida, like all these schools want him. I don't know where he's weaning now, but he's a kid that can play early for the Buffs.
Yeah, and I think finding success in these states is a pretty big deal. Colorado, and I'm noticing a lot right now, they're sort of building pipelines to other states. I think when Coach Prime first took over, he was like, I want Florida, I want Texas, and California. And it was like, everyone does. But like, they truly focused on those states. And I think you're starting to see them get a little bit more aggressive with these other superstar laden states like Georgia. Obviously, their tight ends coach came over from the Alabama, Georgia area as well. So Colorado, they're building some new connections, and I'm excited to see how it works out. Speaking of new connections, so Jaiden Kelly-Murray commits yesterday. And during his commitment sort of interview with CBS, he goes, there's a guy I want to come with me. And this guy's name is Brody Knowles, 6'4.5". We'll call him 6'5", 3-star receiver out of South Lake Carroll, Texas. And I mean, the kid put up huge numbers last year, 800 yards receiving, just like 50 catches. If you watch his film, it's as expected. He towers over people. He's a jump ball getter. And then South Lake Carroll, premier program, kind of like Valdosta in Texas, or Valdosta is in Georgia, but it's kind of like this version in Texas. What do you like about him, and do you think Colorado could maybe get in the mix there? Because, I mean, he's got an offer list that's as long as a CVS receipt as well. It's 40 schools long almost.
Well, the size, first off, it never hurts to have 6'4", 6'5" guys. Secondarily, South Lake Carroll, for those that don't know, there's a certain quarterback for the Rams for the last several years. That's where he went to school, for he went to Georgia, first pick in the draft and all that. They've had like 6 quarterbacks drafted out of that high school. Mm-hmm. They are the creme de la creme for passing game. Ohio State just took a receiver from there last year. Nobody recruits receivers better than the Buckeyes, and they took somebody from there. What does that tell you? He's going to come in prepared mentally. He's in the Dallas Metroplex. It's elite. Elite 11 has held their event there. Like everything about it tells you this kid will be mentally prepared. It's kind of like Valdosta. And for those that don't remember, Prime Prep would have been about a half hour from there when Deion was in the Dallas area. So he knows that vicinity well. He's lived in the Dallas area, played for the Cowboys. I would be shocked if they're not up to date on everything with any kid from Dallas, honestly. So all those things fit, and he can be your boundary for guys like Jaiden Kelly-Murray.
Yeah.
You can't put somebody in the slot and not have that boundary guy that can take pressure off of them because they can squeeze the middle of the field if they're getting killed. One-on-one, if you got 6'5" guys that understand concepts and can run, that changes the game.
Yeah, and I think Colorado's going to have an exciting class, and we're going to cover every step of the way. Brian, tell people where they could find you, because you do a great job covering every aspect of college football, NIL, the portal, recruiting, and you're going to be busy because I think May and June has quietly become – it's not signing day, but it's like this is commitment time.
Yeah, this is the most important time. May 29th, June 5th, June 12th, June 19th. Those are the 4 weekends for all the commitments for the most part. This weekend is the official kickoff to Full Throttle Recruiting. Check it out on the Portal Podcast. You can find me on social media at FBScout_Florida. That's FBScout_Florida. And again, if you really want to dive into it and just for laughter, check out Locked On Seminoles because I make fun of Florida State, even though I cover it because my program is a disaster right now. So that's another option for you if you just want some entertainment.
It just feels like just like a year ago, they were like almost in the playoff. And now it's like Mike Norvell is like costing like a bajillion dollars to fire. And they're like, you know what? We got just the thing. His name's Ashton Daniels. Get to know him. We appreciate you guys tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making us your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.